In just a few weeks, this airport, India's latest, will see the first airliners touching down, and though these will be trial landings and takeoffs, this will be a red-letter day for the Noida International Airport, the National Capital Region's second major airport. With civilian air traffic growing at a compound annual growth rate of 8.9% between 2013 and 2023, and with the existing Indira Gandhi International Airport at the limit of its growth potential, Noida International Airport is set to play a huge role in the growth story of Indian aviation. In Phase 1, 12 million passengers will fly out every year. In Phase 4, several years later, this airport may cater to a whopping 70 million passengers every year. The airport, which will open with a single runway, will eventually operate two. And while it will start with 28 aircraft stands for aircraft, there may be ultimately 200. The entire site at Jewar spans 1,334 hectares. With a design inspired by India, the airport uses local material, art and craft, with flights of steps at the terminal forecourt meant to resemble the ghats of Varanasi and Hardwar. The airport uses natural lighting and ventilation to reduce its CO2 footprint and energy costs. The airport is being developed by the Yamuna International Airport Private Limited, a 100% subsidiary of Zurich Airport International AG, in conjunction with the Noida International Airport Limited, the implementing agency on behalf of the UP government. Access to Jewar is through the signal-free Yamuna Expressway, which features a dedicated access road for the airport. Eventually, there'll be train services as well.
We're standing today on the airport project site, which is 600 or 700 meters from the Yamuna Expressway that leads from Delhi, Noida, Greater Noida, on to Agra and Lucknow. The National Highway Authority is in the process of completing an interchange that will then lead directly from the airport to the expressway on to Greater Noida, 25 minutes, Noida 45 minutes or so, and then on to Delhi.
But how long does it take to get there? We did some basic calculations. I live in Saket. It took me an hour and 45 minutes to reach when I left home at 10:50 a.m. From Noida, it takes approximately 55 minutes, and the drive between Greater Noida and Jewar takes about 35 minutes. With air travel in India booming, it's really all about infrastructure keeping up to the massive growth of India's airlines. And that's what this airport is all about. It's part of a process in the country to take into account the massive growth of air travel. When this particular airport, the Noida International Airport, becomes operational, in the first phase, it'll cater to at least 12 million passengers every year. Ultimately, perhaps a few decades down the road, it could become the largest airport of its kind in Asia. With camera person Pooja Arya, Vishnu Shom for NDTV. It's one of the biggest and most important infrastructure projects in the country, one that involves linking millions of passengers, air travelers, to different parts of India and potentially different parts of the world. We are at the Noida International Airport. We are joined by the CEO, Christoph Schnellmann, as well. This is in Jewar in Uttar Pradesh. It is a massive project, and it's going to be, ultimately, if things go as planned, perhaps the biggest airport in Asia. But that will be many, many years down the road. The project, in fact, is at a fairly advanced state of development. Thank you very much, Christoph, for being with us. When do we see the first flights operate from here?
Thank you and good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So air traffic has been growing at incredible rates in India over the past 15, 20 years, and we expect that growth to continue in the decades ahead. And in order to be able to support that growth, India and Delhi, the National Capital Region in particular, require further airport infrastructure. We're absolutely delighted that we've been selected to design, to build, and then to operate a second greenfield airport, an international airport for Delhi, for the NCR, and for Western Uttar Pradesh.
And in terms of projections of numbers in the initial phase of passengers and going forward, what are you looking at? Why is Zurich Airport so interested in this project?
So we've designed an airport master plan that will ultimately accommodate to 70 million passengers annual, so 7 crore passengers per annum. In the first phase, the phase that we intend to open in April next year, the airport will provide capacity for up to 12 million passengers annually.
And the passengers that you attract aren't necessarily just from New Delhi, right? It's obviously, this area is a catchment area for potential passengers across this part of Western UP. Would that be correct?
Yeah, we're in the business of bringing people and places closer to one another, providing air connectivity, stimulating trade, commerce, allowing people to visit their friends, family, and loved ones. I think we're in the heart of Gautam Buddha Nagar, Western UP, in the larger Delhi National Capital Region. I think very well connected to the region through the Yamuna Expressway and through further rail projects that have been planned in the future.
In fact, that was my next question to you. Because everybody, as you know, we have nightmarish traffic in Delhi. And therefore, the question that people would ask is, oh my God, I have to go to Jewar. That's like on another planet. How do I get there? What's your answer?
So we're standing today on the airport project site, which is 600 or 700 meters from the Yamuna Expressway that leads from Delhi, Noida, Greater Noida, on to Agra and Lucknow. The National Highway Authority is in the process of completing an interchange that will then lead directly from the airport to the expressway on to Greater Noida, 25 minutes, Noida, 45 minutes or so, and then on to Delhi.
So I live in South Delhi, in one of the most congested regions. It took me 1 hour 30 minutes or 1 hour 32 minutes to get over here. It would take other people, passengers, or travelers, possibly less than that. Sometimes maybe a little bit more. The rail link is also important. What's the plan there?
So the state government is planning a rail link, which works we expect to be taken up in the next year or so and completed a few years after, which will connect the airport sort of directly where we're standing, the passenger terminal with a railway station, which will connect directly through Greater Noida, and then onto the RTS network in the National Capital Region.
And when can we see the first flights operating from here?
So we've seen our first flight movements in the past couple of months. We've begun to calibrate the instrument landing system with the first calibration flight in May, a second larger calibration flight or number of calibration flights for the instrument landing system middle of October. And one of the next big milestones that we're looking forward to will be end of November, maybe first few days of December, is a validation flight. And that'll be the
actual landing.
That'll be the first time that we see an airliner land and take off again on the runway here in Noida.
That would be a red letter day for you, a huge occasion as CEO to actually see that we finally got planes landing. It's not just buildings and runways being built.
I think it's something the entire team, we've all been working towards for several years now, and something we're all looking forward to.
Yeah. And how is the inside construction coming along? I think, again, since Indian air travelers are increasingly, specific about their likes and dislikes, you've been involved in a project in Bangalore, your company's been involved in a project in Bangalore, which has developed an absolutely stunning airport. I mean, it is just stupendously beautiful inside. So the question is obvious, would this look as nice as that? What's your take on that?
We're incredibly excited about the experience we're going to be able to offer our passengers.
Give us a scoop.
So we talk about combining Indian warmth and hospitality with Swiss quality and efficiency. I think we've been very deliberate about designing the terminal, picking up elements of the rich architectural heritage of the region. So an airport that is very much at home in North India, in Western UP. If we look at the colors, if we look at the materials, if we look at the large forecourt that you can make out behind the trees behind us, if we look at the commercial space that'll be in this corner of the building, which will feature also a large open air courtyard, sort of reminiscent of, let's say, some of the Havelis you see or find in the region.
And who's advising you on that? Is it ideas of just your group, or are there people coming in to sort of come in with their vision of what they feel an airport should look like? You've got obviously Indian partners as well, the state government. So,
of course.
Yeah, and you've been talking about the look and the feel of the airport, I presume.
We've been talking about the look and the feel of the airport for almost 5 years now. Sort of for us, the project is almost 5 years old now. We won the bid to design, build, and then operate this airport at the end of 2019, and have been at work throughout that, defining the experience, defining the processes, designing the infrastructure, and now since middle of 2022 with our partners Tata Projects constructing the infrastructure.
And ultimately, and I realize that, you hold the airport or part of its operations for a finite period of time, but ultimately, if this area grows, what could we actually see this airport becoming in, let's say, 20 years down the road, which for an airport is a very small period of time?
We will certainly see this airport continue to grow. So the passenger terminal you see behind you has been designed with a view to growth and expansion. So directly behind us, the pier, this has been designed in such a way that we can expand it to the west to provide further passenger terminal capacity. The entire building has been designed in such a manner that can be mirrored to the east again, providing capacity not for 12 million passengers, but for over 30 million passengers, we think, by the end of the decade.
So let's say a year from now, how many piers would be operational in your estimate for the initial lot of flights which do operate?
So we're at work planning 10 contact stands with connection to the passenger terminal. Aero bridges, 10 aero bridges, and 3 bus gates, which will become operational.
Yeah. Tell us about the scale of construction itself. How many thousand people, ballpark, do you employ? And how is safety an absolutely critical part of everything that you do? I mean, it's safety first, I presume.
I mean, safety is something that for us has been absolutely non-negotiable since the moment we began construction activities. It's incredibly important then for airport operations, for flight operations, but equally now it's something that we lay a great deal of emphasis on. We're pleased that with Tata Projects and with various other partners, we found partners that share these values. And I think together we've been working very hard to make sure we create a safe working environment for the men and women that work here. We've clocked to date over 49 million safe man hours on this project. We consistently have around 8,500, 9,000 workers at work on the airport infrastructure.
Yeah. And a final couple of questions. Firstly, how is an airport really a hub for commercial development all around it, for residential development all around it? It's not just an airport which services, let's say, the NCR, but it actually brings all sorts of development completely unconnected to the airport, to this region, right?
Absolutely.
So it's an economic multiplier.
Absolutely.
How so?
So the airport project has already begun to anchor infrastructure development towards the south and east of Greater Noida. The airport is part of the Yamuna Expressway master plan and has already today begun to trigger and to stimulate further infrastructure development around the region, whether it's power substations, whether it's roads, the rail plans we spoke about. And will continue to stimulate commercial development, will continue to stimulate manufacturing development, triggered by the proximity to the airport and the connectivity that the airport offers.
Fascinating conversation, Mr. Shelman. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you so much.